I read this story once. It started with brushstrokes on an empty canvas, a melody echoing in the depths of the canyons, breath exhausting the darkness. And I've heard the ending is supposed to be really great. I want to write like that. I want a story like that. And I imagine myself in that story sometimes. Some hobo walks up to you and says, "Come follow me," and you say no. Obviously, that would be crazy. Rent is due next week, and the $ and the cross didn't used to be synonymous. I read fantasy for fun. Real life isn't so superfluous. But then I read this quote that says, "Fairy tales give way to joy beyond the walls of the world." Now, if that's the case, I think God is in the business of writing fairy tales. And I want to write like that. It starts. Without any warning or sort of demanding, we're thrust into a world beyond understanding. The tip of the iceberg, the ocean floor, is deep. But we can't swim yet, so on the surface we're set. Third grade comes around and Mrs. Herman reads Harry Potter for the class. We start to wonder how our lives might end up, and it seems scary, but Harry beats Voldemort after 3 weeks, so our futures look bright. Vivid colors and scenes delight our imagination. We're thrust into a fairy tale of our own. What once seemed fantasy now comes true. Picturesque landscapes come into view. For a second we glimpse the enormity of it all and realize that no matter how small, our story is a beautiful part of it all. But we start to question. We look at the waters with apprehension, lose heart at the mention, turn to our mirrors and cringe with tension. We're too confused, too misused, we say. We think if people got a good look, they turn away, and the pay isn't great for the freak at the circus. Weight sets in. Shame. The great poacher of stories, of glories and failures. We tailor our lives like a crafter of fine clothes. We take our worst stories and tuck them away, put our best stories out on display. A different set for a different day. Suddenly we've got these tall stories, and I'm no good at climbing stairs. There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you, says Maya Angelou. It's true, but you want to eschew the you, and it's exhausting. I know why the cage bird won't sing. If we don't feel the shame, we've got too much pride. Deep down inside, we're terrified of what happens next. What happens to me? We get caught in the trap that we're writing a narrative when really the case is we aren't the imperative. Our rhythms aligned by a single notation, our verses made clear by one pen's punctuation. Syllables sit soundly sorted by a higher alliteration. Sometimes the couplet breaks down. It's poetic, really. It's scary, really. Because we're wandering. We like to pretend that we aren't, but we are, and we've got the scars to prove it. This one when you thought it best to sit back, and this one when you decided to take a crack. The ones from what happened and the ones that you know will. But see, I've always liked scars. Each one tells a story greater than the one before, yet we seem to abhor. But they don't have to look pretty, because the summation of the story says this is me. This is who we were and who we're becoming. It's really something. Where you are right now is exactly where you're supposed to be. God's heart says your story, it matters to me. Go and let others see. My story isn't meant for drawers and hotels or empty pews ringing with the sound of church bells, and neither is yours. You've got a story to tell. So take pen to paper, step out the front door, look towards the horizon, open your wings and soar. Oh, the places you'll go. All of us have a story worth telling, compelling us towards a life everlasting and bringing companions alongside of us, because their stories make our stories that much better. Go on, shout, write, sing, grow, dance, laugh, paint, sew, take hold and mold. The scars that you bear are worth more than gold. Make your story known. So dig in, reach out, lift up. Between the what and the will is here. Be still, and know that the wandering belongs to you. I wrote this story once, and I've heard the ending is supposed to be great.